Hello and welcome to Breakfast All Day. I'm Matt. Christy is at her house and Alonso is at his house. And we're going to talk about a movie where the two cast members are at their homes. Language Lessons. The movie is entirely done via Zoom. Alonso, please tell us about it.
Yeah, the movie looks like this, but with better lighting and more attractive people. No offense. So this is Natalie Morales' directorial debut. She and Mark Duplass co-wrote the film. They co-star. He plays a man living in a very schwanky Los Angeles home.
Oakland.
Oh, right. Sorry. I saw this in like March, so I may be fuzzy on the details.
It looks like LA. That's Oakland.
You're right.
Go ahead.
It's a fancy California home, as she lives in Costa Rica. And unbeknownst to him, she is his birthday present. His husband has hired her to give him 100 weeks worth of Zoom language lessons, full immersion, conversational, vamos a hablar español. And so that they sort of get thrown into this, weird relationship where they're kind of inorganically put together. And over the course of the subsequent titular language lessons, he deals with loss. She deals with issues of her own. And what begins as a purely sort of professional relationship kind of evolves into something that is more close, but always platonic. And, we kind of wonder if they're, the inherent differences between them and the way they live will become a hindrance, or whether they'll be able to sort of resolve those issues. The entire film is set over a series of Zoom calls. So what did you do during the pandemic? They made a movie.
What's interesting,
Natalie Morales made two movies, actually. She was directing her other movie at the same time.
Oh, wow. Okay.
She did Plan B, right. So it's interesting. We've seen so many movies during the pandemic that take place over Zoom, a couple of horror movies. And this is yet another really inventive way to use the platform, to use the medium rather, to explore the idea of connection and what you present to the world, the version of yourself that you present to the world. It's an interesting paradox that the film presents here, because on the one hand, you kind of get to know somebody a lot faster this way than you might. Like, I think if they had just been meeting in some soulless conference room over a series of weeks, they probably wouldn't have developed this kind of friendship, but they're in one another's homes.
Right.
And so Zoom gives you the sense of immediacy, the sense of intimacy that also paradoxically can be false, right? Like, you think you get to know somebody, and Mark Duplass's character, Adam, has all kinds of expectations in this narrative in his head that he's created about Carino, her character. And so the fact that they're able to explore all of that through these little screens here, and yet it always moves. They've got incredible chemistry with each other, despite the screens. It does not take place during a pandemic. They have to use Zoom because of the geographical distance that separates them, not because they can't be in the same room together.
Right.
So that's interesting. They never mention any kind of, disease or crisis or anything. I really love this movie. I was surprised by it over and over again. And Natalie Morales finds different rooms and different backgrounds and different vibes for each conversation. And they end up leaving messages for one another that are, effusive, but also halting. And maybe they get a little drunk and they say too much, and then they feel bad the next day. And it's like a friendship on fast forward that occurs between them. And they're really lovely together. And Mark Duplass speaking Spanish, so sexy. Is he not? No,
Yes.
no, ¿crees que sí?
There's for me, speaking Spanish is kind of a quotidian thing. So it's, if you were like, Bradley Cooper speaking French is
sexy. Fuck yeah. But Mark Duplass, español no es perfecto. I mean, it's pretty good, but it's like
he does a good job of doing like broken Spanish that improves toward the end of the film, but is still broken. However they plotted that out is definitely well put together.
And they do a good job with the subtitles kind of adding to that, like
being very literal about what he's saying and why it's correct or incorrect.
Right. There's, Christy, you talk about the quick intimacy also partly it happens because Cariño starts calling him separately than just the classes, right? Because something happens early on where she reaches out to him. And so there's a part of that relationship that is completely, if not separate, it's in addition to them, her doing the classes. And so, of course, it ends up being that the conversations are going to be about that stuff anyway. I loved the other thing that it does really well is it, rather than have both of them on screen like in equal parts the whole time, like it will cut back and forth with one of them in the thumbnail. You definitely see them in their day-to-day lives. That is Mark Duplass' actual home.
Yeah.
Well,
that's like the east side of LA. That's not Oakland.
Right.
Dude's got a pool.
They're terrific in this, and I
that
really
HBO
like
money.
how Morales is able to show us different facets of her character without falling into the narrative that Adam thinks is going on, right? Like,
right.
This movie kept taking different turns that were unexpected and they totally work. This is a beautiful little movie.
One detail I like too is that you see in her little box, the stuff behind her evolves as her story evolves. It corresponds to what's happening in her life. So the first episode, she's all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and there's a sign behind her that says "Hola" and like little, hoy es, mañana fue, mañana, ayer fue.
Será.
Yeah, so all kinds of like cute little things she's on top of it, and then as the movie goes on, pieces come down and it becomes like a little more disheveled, or maybe she just, calls from like a different room where it's not like the perfect little classroom. And that was a nice touch, I thought.
Yeah, and Yolanda Machado reviewed this for me at TheWrap and pointed out that you can also sense that her Spanish becomes more or less formal at moments in which she's being more or less open with him. So in other words, like when she's trying to be closed off, where she doesn't want to like share, then then it gets more usted, as opposed to the more familiar too, stuff like that. Yeah, I like this movie a lot. I think as a sort of like, as when we eventually sort of look back at COVID cinema and the sort of experimentation that it brought out and how people worked around the limitations of distancing and whatnot. I mean, I think it's going to stand out as one of the more interesting ones. I don't think it entirely nails the landing, but that's just me. But there is a lot that I like here, and I do like the performances, and I think a lot of the writing is terrific.
You can kind of see what's going to happen in that last shot there. You kind of expect it, but it still, I thought, was very sweet.
Okay.
My number is a 9. I was really impressed by this.
I give it a 7. I liked it quite a bit.
I'm right between you guys. I give it an 8.
Super. Our number is an 8. Weirdly, this movie is only playing in theaters.
Yeah, Shelf Selects. Come on.
I mean, it doesn't make any sense. Like, it's tailor made for you to watch at home to experience it like they made it. Like this is not a movie you need to see in the theater.
If ever a movie did not need to be blown up to the big screen, it's this one. In the same way that I think like when Unfriended came out, I was like, I like this movie. You should wait until you can watch it on your laptop, because that's the best place to watch it. But
yeah, it's a weird decision. Maybe they'll stream it someplace eventually too.
I mean, at some point, inevitably, but I'm just shocked that out of the gate they're eschewing on demand entirely. But what are you going to do? All right. Well, thanks for watching, everybody. Like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check us out at BeFastAllDay on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and follow us at Patreon, patreon.com/BeFastAllDay. We are currently recapping Ted Lasso. We have a lot of other cool stuff coming up that's going to be exclusive to our subscribers. So maybe you should be one. Until next time. Bye.